A few years ago, I was working on a new feature for an issue that I was resolving, and suddenly I noticed kind of a strange thing happening. On every single page that I would visit, there was a single letter A at the top of the page before any of the content. Just right up there at the top of the website on my local environment, there was this letter A that just was appearing everywhere. So after allowing it to bother me for a little bit, I went ahead and figured out what was going on, and ended up being that as I was investigating some functionality in a core file, I had accidentally hit the A key on my keyboard and dropped an A right at the top of a PHP class, if I remember correctly, and it was then displaying throughout the site. Another time, there was a plugin that I was building, and for the life of me, I could not figure out why it was not working. I had built it out, I had gone over everything 2 or 3 times, could not figure out why the functionality was not occurring, why the breakpoint that I had dropped into the plugin was not getting tripped. After beating my head against the wall for a while, I ended up finding out that I had swapped 2 letters. A simple typo had completely messed up my functionality and wasted quite a little bit of my time in trying to figure out what was going on. And so that kind of carries over from the theme from a couple weeks ago, the question that talked about the importance of the little things that can throw a wrench into your plans, into your code, into your day-to-day work. It could be a typo, it could be an accidental keystroke, as in my case, or it could be something as relates to the question from this week, where it's either an incorrect path or maybe a improperly placed new file. You drop the file in the wrong directory and everything starts breaking down. And when it's something simple like that, we don't always need to go into full-on debugging mode and go on a rampage looking through files, stepping line by line. Sometimes if we do just a quick review, we can figure out what the problem is relatively quickly, save ourselves a bunch of time and a lot of headache. But also, and this is something I want to highlight with this week's question, we also need to make sure that we get a full understanding of the problem that we are facing. Sometimes we can step into an issue and think we understand what's going on, think we know what the client is talking about when they're facing a problem that we have to fix. But if we don't have a full understanding of exactly what's going on, we can miss some key points that'll enable us to fix the problem a lot quicker. And that's kind of the focus of this week's question. Now, obviously, again, it's not always possible that we're going to get a quick fix. Sometimes we do have to go line by line, figure out what's going on, and do all of that using the debugger. Now, before we get into the question, I do want to call out SwiftOtter.com if you have a desire to learn more about debugging, if you want some quick tips, maybe you're new to it altogether. We have some great resources there written up by the incredible people that I work with. So I'd like you to head over there and check that out. So let's check out the question. Another developer asks you to take a look at their code because they can't figure out why the CSP rules they've added are not working. They show you the contents of policies in the file Otter CSP Etsy frontend CSP whitelist.xml. Now again, as mentioned here in the question, the parent tags are removed for clarity, so we're just seeing the policies that they're adding. So we've got several different value options. We've got a specific path, all paths and directory, so on and so forth, and the different URLs associated with that. And so none of these are applying, and the question is, what is the problem? Now we have our 3 possible answers. A, there are incorrect usages of wildcard characters that will need to be fixed before the rules apply properly. Then B, some of the paths are incorrect, and you will need to find or fix them. And then C, the CSP whitelist file is in the wrong directory. So, you being the kind and helpful developer that you are helping out someone that's having some trouble with the CSP rules that they're trying to get to apply, but for some reason are not. And now obviously the 3 different possible options to resolve this issue, all of them are pretty simple. There's some possibly invalid wildcard characters, there's possibly some paths that are incorrect, and then there's the possibility that the CSP whitelist file is in the wrong directory altogether, and that's what's breaking the functionality. And so here's where making sure that we have an understanding of the problem really comes into play. The question pretty clearly states that the problem here is with all of the rules not applying. It's not specific to just one or two. None of them are working as expected. So that immediately gives us a hint as to what is going on. If it was specific to maybe one or two rules, it could be an incorrect path. It could be maybe some wildcard characters that aren't working. Now let's go ahead and step through the answers and see what we can find. So again, A, there are incorrect usages of wildcard characters that will need to be fixed before the rules apply properly. Now looking at the code again, we see a few different instances of the wildcard characters. We see a single asterisk, a double, and then here under the Google API value, we have a little bit of a spread here. But considering each of these, we know that a single asterisk basically applies or provides the possibility of 0 or more characters in a single path segment. The double asterisks here are going to allow for 0 or more characters across multiple path segments. So it could be continuing on here down the line. And then this last one here under the Google API, this is just enabling any value for key, any value for libraries, any value for callback. It's allowing any combination of those query parameters. So everything looks fine here. And as I mentioned, an initial understanding of the issue is important. None of these rules are working. So this points to a problem that's not necessarily related to specific rules. So then again, we have option B. Some of the paths are incorrect and you will need to find and fix them. Looking back at the code, nothing really looks incorrect about those paths. Just from face value, they look like they're all fine. There's nothing really apparent that stands out that could be a problem. But again, most importantly, as with option A, it's not just one or two that aren't working. All of them are broken, which makes it look most like a problem with the complete file. It's not specific, it's widespread. So finally we have option C, which is that the CSP whitelist file is in the wrong directory. And looking at the path listed here in the question, we see that CSP whitelist is in the front end directory of Etsy. Now, if we go and look at the code, we immediately see that in the Magento core CSP module, right underneath Etsy, we have the CSP whitelist file right here. It's not listed in an area, it is just directly underneath the Etsy directory. That's the only option that would explain every rule in the file not working, as mentioned in the question, and obviously, since it's in the code, the path is incorrect. So we have an incorrect directory that is causing our problem. That's what's making the rules not apply, and if the developer moves the CSP whitelist file back into the Etsy parent directory, everything is going to work fine as far as we know. There might be more additional problems that need to be resolved. Maybe something is wrong with the paths, but that is going to get the majority of those rules working correctly. And so that being the case, out of options A, B, and C, we are going to select option C as being correct. CSP whitelist.xml file is in the wrong directory. And so again, I want to highlight that when we're looking into a problem, if maybe we're helping another developer out, or even if it's just a problem that we're facing, we need to be aware of the simple things that could be causing the problem, and also make sure that we're working to gain a complete understanding of the problem that we're facing. If we understand what's going on, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to figure out the actual problem that's happening, and that'll give us the necessary knowledge that we need if we do end up needing to do further debugging, step into the code more, and be able to diagnose what's going on properly. So I hope there was something that you picked up from this week's Knowledge Bite. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching the video.